Mhm. Good morning, everybody, as y'all are coming in. Hope everybody's had a great start to your day or great middle of your day, depending on what time of day you are checking in. Y'all see what the topic is here today. I'm going to give you a critical thinking lesson, is what we're going to go over here today. We are live, and let's see if we're live everywhere. We are live on Rumble, on YouTube, on X, on Instagram, on TikTok, and somewhere else I'm forgetting, Facebook. All right, so what we're going to talk about here today, let me make sure we got everything where it's supposed to be. So we're going to talk about here today why you should be following and listening to, subscribing to, whatever, some people with whom you actually disagree, people who you maybe not like, people who you fundamentally do not agree with the things that they believe in. You should be following some of these people. I'm not saying you got to follow every person who you dislike, but I am saying you should be following some people who you fundamentally disagree with their position. You don't like what they support. You don't like who they support. Maybe you think you know what they're about and you're not in agreement with that. You should be following some of these people and listening to some of these folks. And I'm going to help you all explain how. First of all, this is going to help open your mind. It's going to help make you a smarter, more intellectually skilled individual when you do these things, and how it will actually benefit you in the long run, even if you don't change your mind, even if you don't decide to start believing what that other person says or believes. You still should be listening to and following some of these folks. Now, I'm going to tell you where this started with me. And this is an idea that I've been a fan of this idea for many years. And when I first got the idea, actually, I'll tell you, was in 2016. So everybody knows what happened in 2016 in the United States. Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton were running against each other for the presidential election, and Donald Trump won. I did not think Donald Trump was going to win. I didn't think I thought there was a chance he would win, but I didn't think there was a serious chance he would win. I thought Clinton would probably win. She was coming from a political, and her husband was president. She had been in politics a long time. Trump had never been in politics. He was coming off being on TV, and he's a known guy. He is very known, and I know that he had some fans. But I didn't think he had enough fans. I didn't think he was going to win the election. But then he won the election. And when he won the election, I couldn't understand how he won. I didn't vote for him. And I couldn't understand how he won, because I'm sitting there like, wait a minute. This guy, first of all, because I was listening to what people were saying about him in the election. They were like, well, Trump he's a bigot. He's a racist. He's against this. He's against that. He's going to take back all the positive gains that have been made in America over the last 40, 60 years for anyone other than white people, and he's going to roll it back, and he's going to make it only for white people again, and we're going to have slavery all over again. And y'all know all the things that they were saying about him in 2016. Basically, same stuff that they're saying about him now, 8 years later. We'll get to that in a minute. But when they were saying all these things, I was listening to it, and I believed it. It all sounded pretty reasonable. It sounded like it made sense. I said, there's no way that roughly half the country is going to vote for this guy. Now, there may be some people who like him, but half the country, they're going to vote for Donald Trump. So there's no way that can happen. So when he won, I remember the day, it was November 9th, 2016. And at that time, I was living not too far from where I am now. I woke up in the morning, went to the gym like I always do. And when I went to the gym, I thought it was going to be like, because the walk from my house to the gym is like a 5-minute walk. I thought there would be like anarchy in the streets because he won. I thought all of a sudden there'd be cops in the military running around and wrangle up black people. I thought that's how it was going to be, because that's the way they made it seem. If you remember 2016, that's the way that the news cycle made it seem like it was going to be. And when that didn't happen, I remember I went to the gym, I worked out, and I saw a couple white men in the gym working out, and they were just having their regular conversation, doing their regular workouts. Nobody was doing anything different. And it was in that moment, if y'all remember the movie The Matrix, this is the moment when I started to take the red pill. It was in that moment that I started to ask myself, okay, how did I have this idea in my mind? There was no way he was going to win. And if he won, there would be anarchy in the streets, and they would just make it terrible for anybody other than people who look like him. And I'm like, how is it possible? Somebody said it might be if he doesn't win. All right, we'll get to that in a minute. And I was like, how is it that I came to this belief? And it was clear that I had been duped. And it was November 9th. I remember I made a video. It was on YouTube still to this day. When I told people what you should do now that he has won. And y'all can go find that video on YouTube. And I remember just thinking to myself during my workout. And then when I got home, I went and recorded that video because I didn't really care. And I still, to this day, didn't care in 2016, didn't care in 2020, and don't care this year. I have opinions, but I'm not emotionally involved in, I got a pause connection. I'm not emotionally involved in who wins the election. I don't care who wins, whether it's the Democrat side or the Republican side. I really don't care. I'm not emotionally engaged in it. I have opinions, but I'm not emotionally connected. So anyway, same thing in 2016. I made that video telling people y'all need to stop focusing so much on who's in the White House, focus more on who's in your house. Same thing I'm going to tell y'all for this year. And then I thought to myself, how can I think I'm a pretty smart guy. I've written books. I've done speaking. I coach people. I consult. I've done TED Talks and all these things. How can I think that I'm this intellectual, smart individual? I think I'm pretty smart. How was I into believing that everything was going to be so terrible and that there was only this small pocket of people who supported this guy? How did I not see that there were a bunch more and that it wasn't going to be so terrible? How did I get into believing this? I got tricked. I got duped into believing this. So this is when I went on social media and I started to go look up and follow. I started following on social media some of the people who were like neutral or even positive about Trump before the election. I saw them, but I pretty much ignored them before. I pretty much ignored them up until the election. I said, "Oh, this person's just dumb. They're just racist. They're just negative. They're just stupid. How would they support Trump? They're dumb." I was just pretty much dismissing these folks. But then I went on social media and I started following a couple of them, and I started looking through their timelines. And I started reading their blogs and listening to their videos and listening to their podcasts and trying to figure out what exactly they were saying. And I came to realize that the fool was not them, but the fool had been me. I realized that I had been the fool because I had allowed the mainstream media, which includes social media. Social media is part of the mainstream media these days. And I mean the platforms, not us who use it, but the platforms themselves. They are all very left leaning. I think everyone can agree with that, whether you agree with the left or you disagree with the left or you're neutral. We all can agree that social media platforms are generally very left leaning. And there are a few who are popping up that are kind of counterbalancing that. But generally speaking, they're still just like that. They're all the ones based in Silicon Valley. So the YouTube, X used to be, now X is with Elon Musk. The Rumble is a kind of counterbalance to YouTube, but YouTubes, the Facebooks, the Instagrams, the TikToks, these platforms are all very left leaning. We know this. And because of that, their messaging was all in lockstep of how terrible it would be if he won. We can't let him win. He's all these negative things. I know the laundry list of things they say about him, which has only gotten longer since then. And when I started listening to other people who were saying other things, I came to realize, the things that they were saying was they were just making it seem worse than it was. They were making it seem like this is going to be like this terrible thing that happens if he wins. And I realized that that wasn't the case at all. I realized that I just wasn't thinking. I wasn't being led by my logic. I was being led by my emotion, and at least in my head, by what they were saying rather than really thinking about what was going on. And when I started following these other people, I realized what they were saying was pretty measured. I didn't necessarily agree with all of it. I don't agree with all of anything anybody says. But I said, this stuff that they're saying is not crazy, but it was made to seem as if it was. And again, I'm responsible for that because I hadn't taken the time to go look and listen and see what these other folks who I thought I disagreed with said. And that's what led to what we're going to talk about here today. Again, which is why you need to be listening to and following people who you know, or at least you think you disagree with. Even though you disagree with them, you should listen to and follow them anyway. And I'm going to get into my points of why you should do that. First, let me introduce myself. For those who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day. I'm a former 9-year professional athlete, author of 35 books. I've done 4 TEDx talks. I created this brand called Work on Your Game. What we do here is we extract the tools to help athletes get to the top of the sports world, and we translate those tools through our system for you to use those tools in your business and your personal life. All about performance done consistently to produce results. Same thing we do in sports, we're going to help you do in life. So anyway, let's get into the topics here. Again, 3 points I'm going to share with you here today. And the subject is why you should be listening to and following some people with whom you know or you think you disagree. Number one reason is a good critical thinking challenge. This is the number one reason why you should follow some people who you dislike, don't like, disagree with, etc. It is a challenge to your critical thinking skills. What is critical thinking about? Critical thinking is about looking to a situation, looking inside that situation and asking critical questions of it and logical questions. I don't mean emotional questions. I don't mean trying to get a gotcha moment on somebody, like slam dunking on somebody in the comments on social media. You know, people do that all day, every day. I'm talking about having a real critical discussion with another person, or just even in your own mind with a point that another person makes. This is something that you can do when you read a book. You can't have a conversation with the author while you're reading the book, but if the author makes a point, you can stop, pause, and think to yourself, okay, what does that point mean? Does that make sense? How does that go against what I thought was true? And maybe I need to replace my previous belief with this, because this sounds actually more true than what I previously believed. That's what critical thinking is about. That's an example, rather, of critical thinking. And when you only listen to people who are already saying things that you agree with, your critical thinking is never challenged. And this is the challenge that we have in the world that we're in today, because many of us only listen to people who say stuff or believe stuff that we agree with. Therefore, all you're doing is reinforcing your own beliefs. The problem is there are other beliefs out there that conflict with your beliefs that might actually be more true or accurate, period, compared to the things that you've come to believe. You don't even realize it because you're not opening yourself up to hear them. And this is how people get into what they call echo chambers. Echo chambers, when you only listen to things that reflect what you already believe, what you already think, and what you already agree with. The problem with that is, again, the things that you think, believe, and agree with might be wrong. And you won't even know. And you go your whole life not even realizing it because you only want to hear stuff that you want to hear. And this is human nature. Human nature is we tend to gravitate towards things that are in our, that connect, let's just say, that connect with what we want to believe and what we want to think. But a smart person, a critical thinker, is willing to challenge themselves intellectually by listening to stuff that's outside of what you think, or may even go against directly what you think. And then you say, oh, you know what? Now that you put it that way, now that this person said that way, you know what? Maybe I need to open my mind up and consider that this person might be right. And that's what you often will find. That's what critical thinking challenge is. Go listen to people who you don't like at all. Go find someone on social media who you believe you don't like them, and just listen to what they're saying. Read their posts, read their blog, watch a couple of their videos on YouTube, listen to their podcast, and just tell me, do you disagree with every single thing that they're saying? Probably not. Probably not. But the challenge that many people have is that they'll never even open themselves up to doing this because you've decided, or you have been told, you didn't really decide. You were told by your friends, by your family, by social media, whoever you are influenced by. You were told that this person is bad, negative, terrible, stupid. Don't listen to anything they say. And you accepted that without thinking. And what I'm doing right now is challenging you to think. So I don't care what your parents told you. I don't care what your best friends say. I don't care what all the people who you follow believe. I'm asking you to open your mind and ask yourself, have you actually thought about why you disagree with the person? And many times, in my experience, most people have never really thought about why they disagree. All they can tell you is what they've been told to believe. They have accepted that as a belief, and they have never challenged their own beliefs. Critical thinkers challenge their own beliefs. And a simple way that you can challenge your own beliefs is to go listen to someone who believes the opposite from you and listen to what they have to say. And then see if you can articulate why you disagree with them. That's what a critical thinker can do. Now, here's the thing. Most people are not critical thinkers. I'm offering you the opportunity to be a critical thinker by doing this. Again, when you disagree with a person, you should be able to articulate why you disagree. What exactly do you disagree with? What part of what they said do you disagree with? And disagreement, folks, is not about attacking the person, it's about attacking the point. Again, disagreement is not about attacking the person who said the thing that you disagree with, it's about attacking the point that they said. So even if you hate a person, that doesn't mean everything they say is wrong. You can hate a person and they can still make a very good point. And you can love a person and they can still say something that's stupid and makes no sense. And you, as a critical thinker, should be able to point that out. So if my best friend says something stupid, it's still stupid, even though they're my best friend. And if a person I hate says something that's smart, it's still smart, even though I hate that person. Critical thinkers can make this separation. Most human beings are not critical thinkers. They tend to be led by their emotions, and they cannot make this distinction. And this is the reason why we end up in these mental silos, these echo chambers of only listening to people who say stuff that we want to hear. The challenge with that, again, is the stuff that you want to hear might be a bunch of nonsense, and you don't even realize it. So this is how I started to open my mind 8 years ago when I said, oh, there's no way there can be that many people who support this guy who's terrible and all these little laundry lists about Trump. And then when I started listening to what they were actually saying, I said, okay, well, this stuff is actually more reasonable than I thought it was. And again, I don't mean just disagreeing with a particular point that a person made. I mean, if you disagree with someone wholesale and you and them have completely different worldviews, you should be able to articulate what their worldview is and why it makes sense to them, and then articulate what your worldview is and why yours makes sense to you. If you can't do that, then you are unqualified to really say that you disagree with the person. Let me explain that again, because I want to make sure y'all got that. If you disagree with a person fundamentally, I don't mean just one thing that they said. I mean, like, you just overall wholesale disagree with them. They're all the way over here, you're all the way over there. You should be able to articulate what their position is and why their position makes sense to them in a logical way. I don't mean like talking shit to them. I mean, like, you're logically explaining this is what they believe and here's why they believe it and here's why it makes sense to them. And then you should be able to do the same thing for your point of view. Most people can't even do this, yet they have all these things that they agree with and disagree with and don't even know why. If you just challenge most people to explain why do you believe that, they can't tell you why they believe it. All they can do is go grab a link off the internet and post a link to some blog that they found that verifies what they already want to believe. A blog they didn't even read. No, but that's why I believe it. But can you put into your own words why you believe what you believe? And some of you who are listening to this right now, you should ask yourself that question. If you had a microphone and you were standing on stage and someone asked you, what do you believe about X? Not X the app, but X, ABC, whatever. And you said, this is what I believe. And then someone said, okay, can you explain to us why you believe that? Where does that belief come from? What is it rooted in? Most people can't answer the question. So therefore, this is the point. If you cannot articulate why you believe a thing, then you should question why you believe it. Again, critical thinking challenge, folks. I'm going to answer all questions at the end, by the way. If you cannot articulate why you believe something, then you should question why you even believe it. And let me help you all out with a few little shortcuts here. Most of the things that most people believe, you got them from the people around you in your youth, and you never challenged them, and you've grown into an adult, and you still believe the same things. That's how most people, I appreciate that heart, Al. That's how most people get their beliefs. In other words, your parents believed something, and then you believed it because that's what your parents said. And you were a kid, and you weren't really in a position to challenge them in terms of critical thinking. Depending on household you live in, you probably didn't want to challenge your parents at all. So you just accepted it and you never challenged it. And here you are, 35, 50 years old, and you still got the same belief, but you never questioned if it even made sense. Everybody get this? How many of you, when you were a kid, your parents wouldn't let you get up from the dinner table until you ate all your food? And they would say, well, hey, there are kids that are starving down the street. There are kids that are starving in China or in Africa. You got to eat all your food. I got a pause connection on Instagram. You got to eat all your food because there are kids that are starving around the world. So since you have food on your plate, you need to eat everything. You're not allowed to get up from the table. How many of you were told that and you grew up your whole life believing it? I was 30 something years old. I was still believing that. And I was sitting at the table. I wasn't finished eating. And my girlfriend, then now wife, said, why are you done eating? And I said, well, no, because I got to finish all my food. She said, why you got to finish it? I said, well, there are people in the world who are starving who don't have food. She said, well, you eating the food is not going to feed them. That was the first time in my life I'd ever considered that. I was 30 something years old. And this is a true story. And I was like, damn, that makes sense. Me eating this food is not going to feed anybody who's starving. I'm done. And I got up from the table and I stopped eating it. And again, that was the first time in my life I'd ever considered that, but I had grown up hearing it over and over and over again. And this is the point. I'm using that as a silly example, but as a real example of, again, many of us have picked up beliefs just because of who we were around. The environment you come from, the family you come from, the religion you grew up in. There are many people out there who grew up raised in a certain religion. You were always going to the religious place or the church or whatever it was, and you were indoctrinated with that way of thinking. But then when people become adults, they decide, well, you know what? I don't agree with that anymore. I'm not that anymore. I want to go and do this, or I don't want to be in anything, or I just want to do something different. That requires some level of critical thinking. It challenges your beliefs. And many of you need to challenge your beliefs because, again, what you're going to find in your beliefs are paper thin. They're based on nothing other than my friends and family believed it, so I believe it. All right, that is not a real belief. You believe something because your friends and family believed it. That's not a real belief. There's no substance inside of that. If you cannot articulate why you believe a thing, you don't have a reason to believe it. Most people, again, as I said, can't do this. They cannot challenge another person with whom they disagree with a logical discussion. I'm meaning not accusing them, not attacking them, not going ad hominem. Ad hominem means attacking the person rather than the point. Just attacking the point. Can you have a logical discussion with another person with whom you disagree? Most people can't because most of you don't even engage with people you disagree with except to talk shit to them. All right. If we can't have real discussion and real discourse if that's the only conversation that we're having. And social media is generally is not a good example of this because that's what all people do on social media is just talk shit. But if you want to have logical discussion, there are people out there doing it. You just got to look for them. They're not that hard to find. So as I said, you must be able to articulate your positions. Okay? One of the reasons that I follow and engage with people who I know I disagree with is I just want to see what they're saying. I just want to see what they're talking about. I want to just know what they're saying. I want to know what they're saying, why they're saying it, what is the reasoning behind it. I'll read their articles. I will watch something that they put on social media, like a video or something, even though I know I disagree with it. I know that what they're about to say is about to be some nonsense. I still listen to it just to hear what they say, because 80% of it I might actually agree with. It's just the 20% that I don't like, but I still want to hear what they say. I want to see how they're formulating their arguments also, because it tells me why other people who agree with them, why are they agreeing? All right. Oh, now I see why people agree with this person, because they said this. I just listened to the Democratic National Convention speeches. It was Barack and Michelle Obama. They both spoke. Michelle went first and Barack went second. Listen, I'll keep it real. I voted for Obama twice, and I understand why he was able to win. Like, the guy's a great speaker. He's as far as politics go, he is the best public speaker alive. I don't think anybody can challenge that. He's way better than anybody running this year and the last one. He's the best public speaker that there is. And Michelle, she's not. I thought she was better than she actually is. I remember her being better than she was. Her speech wasn't that good, but I think she's better than the Democratic nominee we got now. I think she will have a better chance of winning than Kamala has. But anyway, I listened to both speeches, and I completely understand why people buy into Obama. The guy's a great speaker. He is able to frame his positions in such a way that the average person who is not thinking critically can't argue with anything that he says. They listen to everything he says that makes sense. How could you argue with any of that? You can't. All right. That's what makes him such a great speaker. And since most people are not critical thinkers, all they got to do is hear the speech, then they go vote for him. No wonder he won twice. All right. The fact that he's a great public speaker is a huge reason why he won 2 elections. And nobody can challenge that. Even if you hate Obama, you can't challenge that. The guy's one of the best speakers there is. Now, again, Michelle ain't as good as him. I thought she was better than she actually is, but I think she's better than Kamala. And, Kamala ain't really doing anything publicly that's not scripted. That's a problem. I think there's going to be a problem for her moving forward, but we'll get to that on a later date. Let's move on to point number 2. I went along with point number 1. So we're talking here today about why you need to be listening to and following people who you disagree with, people who you know that you don't like. Number 2, you might learn something. Isn't that interesting? You might actually learn something following and listening to people who you don't like, because again, most people, if they are a professional at what they do, and when I say follow people you don't like, I'm referring to people, generally, I mean people who are usually they're pretty known. They have a platform. So they might be a journalist. They might be an influencer. Maybe they're a podcaster. Maybe they're a celebrity. So these people are usually pretty known. They're used to talking publicly. They've been putting their message out for probably a long time, and they got a lot of people listening to them. As I said, it is very unlikely that every single thing they say you disagree with every single word. I very much doubt that. Very much doubt you disagree with every single word that another person says, even if they're your worst enemy. You might actually learn something, because that person may make a point that you say, all right, I don't agree with you overall, but that point right there, I got to give you that one. All right, that one is actually good. You might actually learn something and find that you agree with the person on many things. Very rare that 2 human beings, again, are on opposite ends on every single point. Usually you'll find that there's some common ground between people who, again, may never be your lifelong friend. If you look at the Democrats and the Republicans, they generally agree on a whole bunch of things. It's just what they disagree on is how we're going to go about doing it. Generally, they agree on, okay, we want the everyday person to feel like they can afford food, clothing, and shelter. We want everyone to feel like they have control over their bodies and their health. We want everyone to feel safe and that we're not going to get invaded. And we want everyone to feel like the cost of life is not just going to keep going up. And we want everyone to feel like they can keep most of their money and not have to give it all to the government in the form of tax. I think both sides agree on all of those things. The only difference is how are we going to do it? This side says we're going to do it this way. This side says we're going to do it that way. And then they say, well, this person's lying, that person's lying. Then we get all what we know as politics. But generally, they agree on a whole bunch of things. And the difference is only in these small details. And again, as I said, as human beings, we are 98% all the same. Generally, we're all 98% the same in terms of our body structure, where our hands are, our legs, our brains, our eyes. Generally, we're about 98% the same. And it would make sense to 2 people who disagree. It would make sense for 2 people to disagree on things only if they're doing it on purpose. Generally, we will find a whole bunch of common ground. But the challenge is, in the world that we're living today, it's hard for people to find common ground when they have already decided what side they're on. So it's like, okay, I can't say anything positive about this person because I'm on this side. And the challenge that I would say, I would put this on the left side politically, is that anyone who comes out and says anything neutral or even positive about Trump is labeled in some negative way just by saying anything neutral about the guy, not even positive, just neutral, people will come and attack you. It's become like socially unacceptable to say something positive about the guy. When if you say something positive about the left's candidate, whoever it happens to be, that's okay. That's just passable. Nobody cares. But you say anything neutral about Donald Trump, somehow you're doing something wrong. You're negative. You should get fired from your job. Your family's not going to like you anymore. The neighborhood doesn't like you. You can't do anything. You can't say anything because you said something neutral about him. That I had to put on the left. All right, the left did that, and they've been doing it they built that up over nearly a decade to create this stigma that you can't say anything positive or neutral about Trump, which is why a lot of people who support him quietly because they don't want to deal with that public backlash. And this is the reason why, this helped me piece this together, why I thought it was only a small pocket of people who supported him, but it was actually a big group of people who supported him. But most of them weren't doing it out loud because they didn't want to deal with the backlash. So that's when I realized, okay, now it makes sense why he won in 2016. Because most of the people who support the left, whoever it is, Obama, Biden, Kamala, whoever, they'll do it out loud because it's celebrated. But see, supporting Trump or saying anything positive about him is not celebrated, it's demonized. So most of the people who support him do so very quietly. They say nothing. I say all that to say, don't get excited about what you see on social media when it comes to this campaign in this election, because it seems like, if you just look at social media, it seems like Kamala's got 90% of the country about to vote for her. That's not the case, because the people who are going to vote for Trump, they ain't saying anything. They're quiet. Where the people who vote for Kamala, it's okay to say that out loud, but it's not okay to say out loud you're going to vote for Trump. It's not that it's not okay, but to do so, you got to have very thick skin, and you got to have a backbone, because you're going to get attacked, especially if you're female, especially if you're black or any type of minority. You're going to get attacked. Now, if a white guy says it, you're going to get attacked too, because of course you're doing it. You're a white guy. You're racist. All right, so nobody can do it without facing some kind of backlash. Is this true? Again, I don't care if you support the Democrat or the Republican. We can all agree that that's true. All right, that's the reality of the situation. You could do one out loud and be celebrated. You do the other one out loud, you get attacked. Now, again, nobody can challenge that. So the challenge with social media is that many people, again, only consume the ideas of people that you agree with, and you're only consuming ideas via sound bites. This is another thing I want to challenge you all to do. There's another critical thinking skill. Critical thinking skill. Critical thinkers go deep into things and find out the full context of what they are believing, responding to, or disagreeing with. Finding the full context. In other words, do not go off of some clip that you see on TikTok, a 30-second clip of somebody saying something, and however people want to frame that and make it seem like it's one thing was actually another thing. Somebody takes a 30-second clip out of a 27-minute speech and says, oh, this person said this, and then you believe that. All right, y'all can't be falling for that anymore. It's 2024. Now, y'all can't still be falling for that. It's 2024. That can't happen anymore. I've had people do this to me. I did an hour-long video. Somebody takes a 2-minute clip out of it and says, oh, well, this guy said this. And then people are going crazy in the comments talking about the little out of context thing that they saw without getting the full context of what actually happened. And then what's crazy is, here's the crazy part. And this is where critical thinking is required of all of you. Because if you show someone a 30-second clip of something and tell them that this is what it is, and they believe it, even when they see the full context, they're still going to have the same belief, because you already poisoned their mind with that nonsense from the beginning. So as soon as someone initially accepts a belief, they're not going to change that belief. Most human beings are not open to changing their beliefs about anything, especially once they've gone on the record and publicly stated that they believe something. So when someone goes on the record and publicly says something, it's very difficult for them to come back and say, you know what, I was wrong. I got a different opinion now. Now that I got the full context, I see things differently, and here's how I've changed my mind. How many times have you ever heard a person say that? Whether they're a public figure or just somebody you know in your life. You ever heard somebody just say, you know what, I used to think this. Now I got new information. Now I got a new experience. You know what, I was wrong. Here's what I believe now. How many times have you ever heard anybody say that? How many times have you said it? Most of you probably never heard a person say that, even though a smart person, a critical thinker, a disciplined individual, I keep getting paused. I got to pause on IG. We're back. A smart person, a critical thinker, a disciplined individual has the ability to do that. But they can say, I got a different perspective now because I got new information, I got a new experience, and I have a new perspective. Therefore, what I believed 5 years ago, I don't believe anymore. And as a side note, folks, if everything you believe now is the same stuff you believed 5 years ago, you have a problem, because life has moved forward. You have moved 5 years forward, yet your brain hasn't advanced. You still have the same ideas. That doesn't make any sense. You should not have the same opinions, beliefs, and ideas now that you had 5 years ago. I'm not saying all of them, but some of them should evolve and change over time because you got 5 years of experience. You got 5 years of learning, 5 years of thinking, hopefully, over the last 5 years. Why would you have the exact same ideas? That doesn't even add up. So anyway, I have a show called Work on Your Game, comes out every day. It's an audio show. You can find it on Spotify and Apple. My show, for example, when you listen to my show in full context, I do about 20, 30 minutes every day. There are people who may only consume small clips on social media. Like some of you who are watching this, you might only see my little clips or the reels or shorts, whatever they call them on whichever app you're listening to me on. You only see the little clips, but you need to get the full context so you really understand what I'm saying and why I'm saying it. The clips may have a better chance of going viral, so we put them out because we know that can get people's attention. But if you really want to know what I think and what I'm really believing about things, you need to be watching these like what I'm doing now or listen to the full context of what I do. I like full-length conversations. I don't like 2-minute sound bites because the 2-minute sound bite can be very misleading. You can make in a 2-minute sound bite, you can make anybody look like anything you want. You can make somebody look stupid. You can make somebody look racist. You can make somebody look like a superstar. You can make anybody look like anything if you just take a clip out of context from something that they put out. I can make any of you look any way I want to make you look. If I got enough content to choose from and I just go find the right piece. And all I got to do is frame it and say, I'm going to take the little clip and then I'm going to tell people what's happening in the clip before they even watch it. And they're going to connect whatever's in the clip to what I said. And they're going to accept that as the truth. This is how people are. And that's a dangerous thing because most people don't think. 3 truths about human beings. Most people don't think, they don't read, and they're lazy. So if you want to mislead a whole bunch of people, social media is a great tool to do it. It's a great tool for misleading people with nonsense. And some people make money off that nonsense, is why people keep doing it. Anyway, it's a side conversation. So my whole point is people are not getting the full context of things because social media is designed to have you scrolling through the feed and you can't pay attention. Side note and a little hint for all of you, the best thinkers out there, the smartest people, they get things in full context and they have the ability to control their attention, meaning they don't go through life as if they're scrolling through their TikTok feed. All right. Some of you go through life like you're on the TikTok feed. You're just scrolling. You can't pay attention to anything for longer than 90 seconds. That's a problem. If you want to achieve long-term success in life, you got to be able to put your full attention on something for 90 minutes, not 90 seconds at a time. Full attention. Focus is a force multiplier, ladies and gentlemen. The longer you can stay focused on anything, the stronger your focus gets. And the more you are focused on a thing, the better you will do at it. When you're only giving a little bit of focus to something, then going to the next thing, it's like you're driving a car and you keep putting it from drive to park to reverse to neutral to drive to park to reverse to neutral. You keep doing that, eventually you're going to wear out the engine. That's what you're doing to your brain when you can only pay attention to small sound bites. You got to get the full context of life and the full context of what you're doing. And the best performers put all of their focus on specific things and put all their focus on that thing. Then when it's done, then they move to the next thing. When that's done, they move to the next thing. They're not trying to do 37 things in a day. They're trying to do 1 or 2 things in a day and do their best at those 1 or 2 things. That's why they're high performers, because they're putting all of their focus into a specific thing rather than trying to divert it amongst a million different things, which is where a lot of you get confused, especially those of you who grew up with social media. If you're under the age of, let's see, what age would you be? 25, under the age of, maybe some of you under the age of 30, you've grown up and social media has been around your whole life. And it depending on how your parents raised you, you had a phone when you were 5 years old, then your brain is wired this way. Good news is you can fix it. Good news is you can fix it. Now, I'm older than some of you. If you're under 30, I'm older than you. I grew up in an era where we had TV. All right, what y'all have is social media. We had is TV. The TV was not nearly as damaging to the brain. It is damaging, not nearly as damaging as social media because you couldn't control the TV. You had a remote control, but the show was 30 minutes. You had to sit there and watch it. You had to watch the commercials. And when it goes off, you watch the next one. Social media, you can watch 100 different TV shows in an hour. TV shows, people's platforms. But anyway, I'm diverting here. So let me move on to point number 3. And then I'm going to take questions. You got a question or comment, I will address them at the end of this. I got my third point. So we're talking here today about why you should follow and listen to some people who you don't like, you disagree with, and you think that they're terrible, stupid, and ignorant and lazy. You should follow them anyway. Number 3, you got to know what every side is up to. You need to know what the other side is up to, even if you're not on their side. You need to know. Zig Ziglar was a famous motivational speaker. He became famous as a motivational speaker, but he actually was a sales trainer. That was what his main thing was, sales training. But then he kind of reinvented himself into a motivational speaker later on in life. He died many years ago. And he has a book out there, an audio program called Secrets of Closing the Sales. Any of you who's a salesperson, I would suggest that you go look that up. You can find it. It's out of print, so you can find it for free. on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Music. It's called Secrets of Closing the Sale. It's about 14 hours long, I think, last I remember. Maybe 12 hours, but it's very long. It's at least 10 hours. Very long. I would suggest you listen to the whole thing. It's a great trainer. It's a great training resource for anybody who is in sales. Again, it's called Secrets of Closing the Sale. The guy's name is Zig, Z-I-G, Ziglar. Very easy to find. Just look it up and listen to it. But anyway, I'm bringing Zig up because when he was doing more of his motivational speaking stuff, this was after the sales stuff. And Zig used to show you how old this guy was. He used to sell pots and pans door to door at people's houses. That's how he got known. He used to go sell pots and pans. He would sell, they called it cookware. He would sell cookware door to door, knocking on people's doors cold, getting into their living room, sitting down and selling pots and pans. And he was good at it. That's how he became a famous sales trainer. But then he became a motivational speaker later on. Anyway, I'm bringing him up to say this, that he would always say during his speeches, he would say, every day I read the Bible for a little bit, and then I read the newspaper for a little bit. And why is that? So I know what both sides are up to. And that's the point that I want you to get here on point number 3. It is foolish to only listen to people who you agree with, because the people who you disagree with are still there and they're still pushing their points, and they still have people who agree with them. Again, it is foolish to only listen to people who you agree with, because the people who you disagree with, they still exist. They are still putting their message out, and there are people who agree with them. So you should know what they're agreeing with. You should know what they're talking about. If you were going to war, actual combat, don't you want to know what the enemy's doing? Don't you want to know what their plans are? Don't you want to know how big their army is? You want to know what kind of tanks they have, what kind of guns they got, what their strategy is going to be? The more you know about the enemy, the better chance you have of beating them, right? Any of you follow sports? Don't sports teams scout the other team before they play them? Or if the Super Bowl is coming up, doesn't one team scout the other team before the Super Bowl so they know what all their plays are? They know what their tendencies are. They know who their best players are. They know who's going to get the ball the most. They know what kind of defense they like. They know who we need to stay away from. Don't run the ball like that guy because he's too good. Let's run it over here because they're weak on that side. This quarterback's not good if we make a move out of the pocket, so let's put pressure. You scout the other team. All right, so y'all should be, even if you just completely say, Dre, I get what you're saying, but I still hate those people. I don't want to listen to anything they say. I don't want to give them the engagement of being one of their followers. I'm suggesting you should do it anyway, because you should know what they're doing and know what they're up to. So just in case they end up taking some offensive action, you already know what's happening. The United States of America has a very strong military. Nobody attacks the United States. We haven't been attacked on our land since what? Pearl Harbor? Why is that? Why don't we get attacked? Because we know what everybody else is doing. We got a very strong military, and part of the strength of our military is not just the guns and the tanks, but it's also the intelligence. We know what everybody else is doing. We know what they got. We know what they might use. We know what they used to use. We know what they're thinking about using, and that's the reason they don't attack us, because they know that we know what they're going to do. So you should know what your opponents, if you want to consider them opponent, you should know what they're talking about. Because they might be putting out some idea that you're like, you know what? Actually, that idea is not that bad. Or they might be putting out something that's terrible. Like, man, that's a terrible idea. So when that idea finds its way to your doorstep, you're already prepared for it. Remember, folks, a professional is always prepared ahead of time. Professionals never get surprised by the situation. Professionals always know what's coming before it comes. And how are you going to know what's coming before it comes if you won't listen to anybody that you don't like? If you don't listen to anybody who disagrees with you socially or politically or whatever it is that you don't like, you should go listen to them. If you hate any social movement that's happening these days, I don't even want to mention them because TikTok keeps flagging me when I say certain terms. So I got to be careful what I say when I'm live on TikTok. But any social movement you disagree with or anyone that you're a big fan of, you need to go follow some people who are on the other side of that movement so that you know what they're talking about, because they are talking. All right, they are talking. Right? They didn't stop talking just because you didn't listen to them. They're still talking. They're still plotting. They're still scheming. They're still saying what they say. And again, you might agree with some of the things that they say if you paid attention. So again, I see on social media, and I remember this happened in 2016. This is another thing. Let me tell you about 2016. And this is back when, so at this time I was using Facebook a lot, and not Facebook business, but Facebook, my personal Facebook page. So these are people who I personally know I'm connected to on Facebook, people I know from school, people I met in person, etc. I don't know if y'all remember this, but back in 2016 on Facebook, if you're old enough to remember, you probably saw this. There was this copy pasted paragraph that people were putting out about Donald Trump before the election. It was around this time, but before in 2016, the last couple months before the election. And it said, and everybody was posting the same thing. They were saying, hey, if you're going to vote for Donald Trump, then I want you to unfollow me on Facebook, because I can't be friends with somebody who's going to support someone who is, and then, you know, the laundry list about Trump, whatever you believe about him or whatever, you know, people say. If they said, I can't support somebody who's this. So if you're going to vote for Trump, I'm not mad at you, but I can't be your friend anymore. So please unfollow me or unfriend me on Facebook. And I was seeing people post it, and it was the exact same paragraph. It was the exact same one. And people just kept copying it and pasting it. And I saw people who I personally know. I'm talking about people who I personally have met, shook their hands, have respect for, were posting this. I'm like, what the hell are y'all doing? Why are you posting this? So you're saying that if someone's going to vote for a politician that you don't agree with, because that politician is a terrible person, at least according to you, you can't be friends with them anymore? Are you crazy? People were doing this in 2016. They did it in 2020, and they're doing it again in 2024. And so I'm bringing this up not to tell you all. I'm bringing this up to tell you, don't be this person. Don't be that. Don't be a fool. That's foolish. You tell somebody you can't be friends with them because they have an opinion that's different from yours. That's crazy. You need to have people whose opinions are different than yours around you, because they might be seeing something that you don't see. All right, they may have some intelligence that you ain't got. And do not fall into the foolish, dogmatic way of thinking that your way of thinking must be the right way. All right, that's how cults get started. So again, here you can insert your Donald Trump joke right there. All right, this is where cults get started, is when you think your way of thinking and the people who agree with you, we must be the right ones and everybody else is the wrong ones. Don't do that. Okay, this is how cults begin. When you just only want to hear what you want to hear. Listen to everybody and then make a decision. That's how you actually get informed. Being informed, folks, does not mean you have the quote unquote right opinion. There's no such thing as a right opinion. Everyone can have their own opinion. There's no such thing as a right or wrong opinion. Being informed means you understand what everybody is saying in context, and you understand why they believe it. And you can explain their position better than they can explain it. When any of you is a lawyer, we got any lawyers listening to me right now? Any of you works in litigation, a really good lawyer, like a trial lawyer. I don't mean like lawyers who do paperwork. Every lawyer does paperwork, but I mean trial lawyers who go to court and you actually argue against another lawyer in court. A really good lawyer's best skill is their ability to know the argument of their opponent and be able to give it better than their opponent can. That's what a good lawyer can do. So like Johnny Cochran, you remember Johnny Cochran? He got OJ off. What a good lawyer can do, somebody like him, or who's another famous lawyer. I don't know if there's any other famous lawyers, but a famous lawyer already knows every argument that their opponent is going to make, and they can make it better than the opponent makes it. And that's how they win cases, because they know exactly what you're going to do and they beat you at your own game. So how can any of you beat somebody who you disagree with at their game if you don't know what their game is? You got to pay attention. And again, on social media, I see people doing this nonsense, blocking, unfollowing. I see people say this on X/Twitter. They say this all the time. Anybody who's not going to vote for Kamala, I'm blocking you. And they're kind of like joking, but I don't think they're joking. I think they're dead serious. And I'll respond to them like, what is that actually going to do? What are you achieving by saying something like that, or unfollowing, or not listening to anyone who has a specific opinion, whether it is in favor or not in favor of the other thing? All right, the better you understand the thoughts, ideas, and words of people with whom you disagree, and knowing that you have it in full context, you are in better position to challenge their position. You can't challenge me on a position if you don't know what my position is. So if I say, hey, I don't think Trump's that bad of a person, and that's all you know that I said, you can't come challenge me on that. Like, you can't, then you're going to start listening to laundry list of terrible things about him. Well, hear my full context about him. Then you can challenge me, but you got to listen to me first. Again, what's the most important way to be interesting, folks? Be interested. You have to listen first. Half of communication, ladies and gentlemen, is listening, not speaking. Half of communication is getting your point across, and the other half is letting the other person get their point across. So when you hear the word communication, socially, most of the time people hear communication, they think that means speaking, writing, standing on stages, getting on in front of a camera and putting your message out there. Yes, that's part of it. The other part of it is you shutting up and listening to what everybody else has to say. Because a good communicator not only can make their point really well, but they understand the points of everybody else. That's what makes someone a good communicator. Speaking of politics, any of you has ever read anything about Bill Clinton, past President Bill Clinton? He was president from 92 to 2000. And one thing that people always said about Bill Clinton, even those who disagree with him, they said this guy was one of the best. He had charisma. And what his charisma was about is not that he was pretty or things like that. His charisma was that when he was talking to a person, you feel like you're the only person in the world while he's listening to you, because he pays such deep attention while you're speaking that you feel like he is giving all of his attention to you. That is communication as well. It's not just Barack Obama standing up on stage giving a speech. It's Bill Clinton sitting down and listening. Many of you have been conditioned by social media to not listen. You hear, but you don't listen. And there's a difference. Hearing means you can repeat back what I said. Listening means you understand the spirit behind my words. And on social media, especially when you come across something that you disagree with, and if you want to see some examples, you can go look in the comments at some of my posts on Instagram the last couple of days, and where I was talking about Christianity. And what happens is a lot of times people, they hear long enough to hear something that they disagree with, and then they immediately go to the comments and start talking shit. That's how most people use social media. They go here, and as soon as they hear something they disagree with, they immediately go in the comments and start saying why they disagree. But you're not even getting you didn't get the full context of what I'm saying. You don't understand the spirit behind what I'm saying. Therefore, you're unqualified to challenge me on what I'm saying. And again, this is what good communicators do. Excuse me. Good communicators, ladies and gentlemen, are good at understanding the spirit behind someone's words, not just the letter of their words. Now, listen, if you want to get into litigation and be a lawyer, then you should argue on a letter of the law, because that's how you can win cases. But if you want to communicate with human beings, you need to understand the spirit of what they're saying, not just the letter of what they're saying. Those are two different things. Spirit of what someone says means you understand that not everybody has the ability to communicate as well as you do. All right, not everybody is Barack Obama. All right, most people ain't Barack Obama. They have a point. They have something they want to say, but they may not be so good at putting it into words. Your job as a good listener, a good communicator, is getting what they're trying to say, even if they're not that good at saying it. So any of you have kids? I have a 2-year-old child. He's 2 years old. So is he going to be able to articulate things as well as I can? No. But is it my job to understand what he's trying to say, even if he's not that good at saying it? Of course it is. Now, again, with a kid, all of you understand it. Okay, you need to treat the people you deal with, the adults you deal with, the same way. Show them the same empathy and the same compassion and the same respect, and have the same self-discipline with a human, even if you disagree with them, that you would have with your own child. Because your child doesn't have the ability to put things into words properly or perfectly. Well, you need to treat other adults the same way. Maybe they didn't say it the right way, but you get what they're trying to say. And stop trying to slam dunk on everybody in the comments. Now, listen, sometimes you got to slam dunk on somebody in the comments. I'll do it every now and then. But at the same time, you need to understand what someone is trying to say, even if they're not that good at saying it. Okay. And at the same time, since we're on the subject, respect people's right to say what they want to say, even if you disagree with it. Just respect people's right to say it. Like, you can challenge someone. Someone can say something that I completely disagree with on social media, and I will tell them that I disagree, and I will explain why I disagree. But I don't believe that they should be blocked or removed or not allowed to say it. They should be allowed to say what they want to say. I got another pause on IG. Everyone should be allowed to say what they want to say, even if I think it's nonsense, even if I think it's bad and negative in every way. I don't even want to say all the other terms because, again, TikTok keeps flagging me, so I got to be careful of the words that I use here. But even if I think someone is completely bad in every way, I do not want anyone banned from being able to say what they want to say, even if I disagree with all of it. Everyone should have the right to say what they want, because this is a land of free speech. And free speech, folks, not only means your ability to speak, but also means your ability to let everybody else speak. And you need to have the ability to listen. So let me recap my points. You got a question or comment, put it in the comment section right now. What we're talking about today is why you should be following and listening to and subscribing to some people who you do not like, who you disagree with. And I told you my red pill moment happened in 2016 when I said there's no way that half the country can vote for Trump because he's such a terrible person. And I realized I was the one who had been duped. And I had been listening to too many people with the same idea. I was living in an echo chamber. And that's when I needed to go and listen to some people other than those people and see what the people on the other side of the conversation were saying. And I realized that they were not nearly as terrible as they were made out to be. And I realized that I was the fool because I was not opening myself up to listen to other people. So I'm suggesting this to you so that you don't make the same mistake. Point number one, this is a critical thinking challenge. If you disagree with a person, you must be able to articulate why you disagree and exactly what you're disagreeing with. This also requires you listening to what they have to say first before you start talking. Number two, you might learn something or find that you agree on many things with another person. It's very rare that you disagree with every single thing about another person. You'll find that you probably have a bunch of things in common. The difference just may be about how you want to go about handling it. Again, look at the Democrats and the Republicans in the United States. They generally agree on what they want to do. It's just a matter of how they're going to do it is the only disagreement. It's not one side says we want costs to be low and the other side, no, we want costs to be high. No, nobody says that. They just disagree on how they're going to go about it. That's the only difference between one political party and the other political party. And then there are a bunch of other nuances in there, but you get my point. Number three, you got to know what every side is up to. Again, Zig Ziglar said, I read the newspaper every day. I read the Bible every day. Why? So I know what both sides are up to. You need to know what every side is up to. So if there's a group, a faction out there of people who you really don't like and you disagree with everything that they're about, you should still go find some people who are in support of that and listen to them and follow them and watch their YouTube and whatever. Why? So you know what they're talking about. You know what they're doing. Again, does a sports team show up to the game without scouting the opponent? Does a army show up to a war without scouting the other army? Nobody does that. No professional shows up unprepared. So if you want to be a professional at having your opinion, you need to start doing professional things, which is listening to other people and seeing what they have to say, even if you hate them. So with all that said, let me take questions and comments. Super Reese over there on YouTube, I appreciate you. Appreciate those comments. Silent Thrower on Rumble, I appreciate that. I think this is the first comment I got on Rumble. I just started doing Rumble last week. So shout out to Silent Thrower. I think you are the first comment that I ever got on Rumble. I'm gonna do Instagram in 1 second. Let me do TikTok first, then we'll come to Instagram. So you got a question or comment and put it in the comment section. Our topic here today is why you should be listening to and following some people who you absolutely don't like, who you disagree with, who you just are not feeling anyway. You should be listening to them anyway. And good to see TikTok. Yesterday, TikTok didn't have my numbers up. Maybe it was just a topic. Realtor named House. What's going on, House? That's a good name to be in the real estate business. Shout out to House, the realtor here in the, I think you had the first comment. Someone said, am I related to Alec? I haven't got that question in a long time. JRT was good. Somebody asked, do I work at Barnes & Noble? No. Barnes & Noble? Are you asking that because of the books behind me? These are my books. So this is the work on your game version of Barnes & Noble. Hook in Loop said, I love this advice for the most part, even scripturally. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Brian says, what are some practices to separate emotion and critical thinking skills? Well, I went over that. I think you asked this early in the live, but number one is get the full context of what someone else is saying. And remember that communication skills are about your ability to listen and get the spirit of someone's point, not just the letter of their point. And what happens a lot when people disagree is that they're disagreeing on the letter of the point, not understanding the spirit of the point. And you have to grant people a little bit of grace. Understand, not everybody is Barack Obama. Not everybody is so eloquent and articulate in their speech. So you have to, again, treat them like your child, and that they're trying to say something, but they might not be so good at saying it. If you treated everybody like that, if everybody did that, then a lot of what happens on social media wouldn't happen. So I don't know what would happen to social media, but that's how it would change. If we just show people that same level of respect. People do the same thing with scripture. They tend to confirm. Yes, exactly. People do that all the time, right? They'll go to Google and they'll find some little piece of scripture and they'll take it out of context and they say, well, this is proof of my point, when they're taking it completely out of context, not understanding the spirit of what's being said. I 100% agree with you on that. Someone said, let's see. Al, I appreciate that for the badge. Thank you for the badge. Smooth said, what a weird way to put on chapstick. Thank you. Anonymous said, I agree with you 100%. And someone said, book is called The Power of One More by Ed Mylett. Yes, I got that book by Ed Mylett. He was at some conference I was at. He was speaking and he gave his book away for free. I have that book somewhere on the shelf. Most people who practice any faith were simply born into it. Yes, I agree that's true. Now, it doesn't mean that they're wrong, but sometimes people get out of a faith once they realize that they don't want to follow it anymore. So I'm not saying you're wrong if you were born into a faith. Maybe you like it. No, so good morning. I appreciate your perspective. Thank you, Ali. I appreciate that. Thank you. Someone said, what else? Mojo said, same thing happened to me. She said, you don't have to eat all the food you bought. It blew my mind. Yes, it happened to me. And I was over 30 when that happened. And Anonymous, the topic we're talking about here today, well, I went over that. So true. My mother always told me Republicans don't care about minorities, which is not true. Yes, my mother told me the same thing. And she didn't say it that way. She said, my mom said Republicans only work for the rich people is what she said. I think she wanted to say what your mom said, but she didn't say that. And I think she didn't want to taint our minds and make it about race. Your mom didn't have a problem doing that. My mom, I don't think she wanted to say that, but I think that's what she wanted to say. She paused a little bit when I asked her, are we Democrat or Republican? She said Democrat. I said, why? She thought about it for a moment, and then she said, well, they only work for rich people. When she wanted to say they only work for white people. But she didn't bring that up. Let's see. Somebody asking, I appreciate you, D Nice. Good to see you here. Somebody said you can't shoot the messenger all the time. That's right, because eventually you're going to run out of messengers. Somebody said they hate everything out of Trump's mouth. Biden was 10,000 times more intelligent. Okay, that means Despite that belief, if you really believe that, I don't know if you're just trolling or you really believe that, you should still follow some people who support Trump so you can find out why. Because they can't all be fools. They can't all be racist. They can't all be terrible. And that's the same thing. That's the same conclusion that I came to. Not what you said, but what I'm saying is no way that half the country is all racist and terrible and bigoted. That's impossible. Because I've dealt with enough people in America to know that that's not possible, which means that I must be getting the wrong information. And that's when I started going to listen to other people, because there's no way that that's possible, and it's not possible, and it's not true, because I went and listened to some other people and I found out, oh, okay, this is what they actually believe. And what I had been told was not the truth. So Hoop says, I base how I move on the Bible, red, blue, or left, all come second to what scripture says. I like that. I like that you have some principles. And one of the challenges, I posted this on IG maybe a couple of weeks ago, is that a lot of people don't have principles. Hook and loop, what you're saying is absolutely correct. And yesterday I did a live talking about the work on your game commandments, which are basically the principles that what we do over here is based on. And there was 13 principles. And religion gives people principles, and they are documented and they're written down, and everyone has to follow the same principles. And that's the reason why I respect anyone who follows a religion, because anyone who follows a religion actively, they have principles that they must adhere to. It doesn't mean you're perfect, but it means you are trying to follow those principles. Whereas I find most people these days are much more secular and they have no principles. They'll just go along with whatever serves them. And that is a challenge. And that undermines the foundation of society when we have a bunch of people with no principles that will just go along with whatever sounds good. So High said you're voting for Trump 100%. That's fine. And there are people who are going to vote for the other person. You should follow some of those other people. JL Ford, appreciate you. Booyah J Farah, appreciate it. JL said a lot of white married women will vote for Harris without telling their husbands. Well, that's fine. That's their right. Everybody has a right to vote for whoever they want to. That's the great thing about the democratic voting process, is that everybody can vote for whoever they want. And I'm gonna do more on the election as we get closer to it. I'm gonna do a whole live. I'll tell y'all right now what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do a whole live, and I'm gonna tell you why Kamala's gonna win. And then the next day, I'm gonna do another live and tell you why Trump's gonna win. Because a critical thinker can argue both sides. That's coming. That's coming in. Where are we now? We late August, maybe closer to like October. I'm gonna do 2 lives back to back. One about why Kamala's gonna win. Then I'm gonna do another one why Trump's gonna win. And somebody said, I know many people are voting for Trump, but they would not say out loud. Yes, exactly, because they get you get demonized for supporting Trump out loud. Critical thinker is a rarity for this world. Absolutely. Martin Luther King Jr. was a conservative Republican. Some say. He said Malcolm X and liberals are the worst enemy of the black man. Yes, he did say that. Yes, I did. Malcolm X did say that. Most people don't think is there hope for humanity. Yes, because the good thing about thinking is you can start doing it. Even if you're not thinking now, you can start. It's like if somebody doesn't go to the gym, they can start going to the gym. Booyah said, yes, focus is a force multiplier. Exactly. That's something I've been telling my audiences for years. And when you can focus, you be better. Musta said, been a fan since 2012. How'd you get your winning mindset? What fueled the fire for you? Well, a lot of it came from sports. So I think you were watching me in the basketball days, Musta. That came from sports. It came from the stuff I learned as an athlete. And once I started talking about mindset to athletes, I realized, or I was told by non-athletes, hey, this stuff applies off the court as well. And that's when I realized this stuff is more valuable than just for sports. So that's where it came from. And Instagram, I'll get to the comments in 1 second. I don't know who this man is, but he seems smart. Well, thank you. I hope I am smart, Mike Rowe. I appreciate you. Not going to be friends with someone who truly believes I'm evil. Okay, that I'm fine with, Chris. I'm fine with that. Democrats created 50 million jobs to Republicans 1 million jobs since the Cold War. Game over. I don't know if that's exactly true, One Life, but I get the direction of what you're saying there. I get the direction of your point. Now I don't know if that what you just said is factually true, but again, you should still listen to people who don't agree with you. Edward said Trump 2024. Obama's speeches are totally great. Yes, Obama's a great speaker. He's one of the best there is. Chris said, I think I lost my spot a second. Chris said, implying news is the opposite of the Bible is wild. Well, again, Chris, it's a euphemism is what Zig was doing. And it was a joke. He said it in a tongue-in-cheek way. When he would say it, the crowd would laugh because everybody got his point. And actually, it ain't that far off. I don't think it's that far off. Booyah said, what's my profession? Well, I have this company. It's called Work on Your Game. What we do here is we take the tools to help athletes get to the top of the sports world. And we translate them over to the business world. So I'm an entrepreneur. If you're asking in general, I'm an entrepreneur. So I write books. I do speaking, coaching, consulting. We have courses, training, all those kind of things. I guess you call it thought leadership, is I guess what people call it these days. What do I sell? Be happy, be successful. Well, I just answered that question. Someone said Islam is the best. All right, cool. You should follow some people who are Jewish and Christian and atheists and everything else, just so you know what they're talking about. Booyah said, I'm a product of war and I hate war, so I don't like Democrats anymore for promoting wars. I understand that, Booyah. I understand war is still going to happen. Even though you hate it, it's still going to happen. So you should still be paying attention to what's happening. Michael said, why should someone vote for Trump? Because they want to. And when I do my live, I'll give you the reasons why. If he wins, I'll tell you exactly why he's going to win. And I'm going to do the same thing for Kamala. So again, I'm doing it for both sides. Who am I voting for? I'm voting for myself. That's who I'm voting for. I'm voting for myself because, again, I just told you, what happens in your house is more important than what happens in the White House. I think people get too caught up in who wins a political race. If you don't work in politics, like literally in DC politics, then you can have your opinion and vote for who you want. But I would say you vote for yourself, because what you do in your house is going to have more effect than what happens over the next 4 years than anything that the politicians do. And anyway, whoever you vote for might not win anyway. So let's say you vote for Kamala and Trump wins. What you going to do? Quit? And what if you vote for Trump and Kamala wins? What are you going to do? Quit? You still got to live, even if the person you voted for doesn't win. So this is why I don't understand why people get so excited about these elections when your choice might not win. That's what happens in the democratic process. So that's why I don't get emotionally engaged in these things. I will talk about them because it's great for content. Obviously, as you can see, all you got something to say. But I don't really care who wins, because I'm going to be successful either way. I will be more successful in 2028 when the next election comes up than I will be in 2024, this election. Why? Because over the next 4 years, I will continue to improve and get better and help other people improve and get better. Don't even matter who wins, because neither one of them is going to stop or start my success. So Gabriel says on Instagram, I'm neutral on the political spectrum. I said something that I agree that certain politician did, and I got backlash. Yes, that's exactly how it works. So if you're going to be out there and agree, if you're going to say anything even neutral about Donald Trump publicly, understand there will be backlash. And Built 100 said people struggle to agree and disagree and adapt to what's going on now. Yes, that's has always been a thing with human beings, but social media has allowed it to exacerbate. Social media didn't create it. It allowed it to exacerbate. So we can't blame social media, because if you understand social media for what it is, all it is us talking. So we can't blame an app when we're the ones on the app. So Ed says, I believe that being a moderate is the best side to take because it keeps you grounded in logic and critical thinking, aka common sense. I would agree with that, Ed. As far as the spirit of what you're saying, the challenge is human beings are not logical. Human beings are emotional. So if you want to move a mass of people, you got to speak to their emotions. If you speak the logic, you're only speaking to like this many people. You're speaking to like 2% of people. Nothing wrong with that. 2% of 8 billion is still a whole lot of people. But you got to understand you limit your reach when you get too logical with people, because a lot of people don't think. I told you, people don't think, they don't read, and they're lazy. So if you try to be logical with people, understand you're going to turn off a whole bunch of people who don't want to think, which is fine. You just got to know you got to know that that's the game you're getting in. So when I get really logical on subjects, I know I'm not talking to everybody. I'm talking to a certain segment of the population, and I'm okay with that. Now, if I want to get a whole bunch of attention, then I'll talk about different subjects that I know the average thinking person will be interested in. If I wanted 100 people on every live that I do, I would talk about different topics, because I know exactly what's going to draw the masses. But I don't want to talk to the masses. I want to talk to people who actually want to think. Gabriel says the left and Dems are so blinded by their hate for the right, they don't acknowledge nor research other perspectives as well as the left's own intentions. Yes, I think it's the fans of them. I don't think it's them themselves. I think it's their fans. I don't think it's like Kamala Harris and what's the chick's name, Pelosi and Biden. I don't think they are blinded by hate. I think their fans are blinded by hate, because the left knows that in order to get our fans to vote for us, we just got to keep pushing these emotional talking points. So they're doing that. That's a strategy. They're not dumb. They are very strategic. That's another thing I should have mentioned in my live. I mean, well, I'm still live, but in my points is that do not fall under the spell, folks. Everybody listen to me. Never fall under the spell believing that the people who you disagree with are dumb or stupid. They're not dumb. They're actually very smart. And the proof that they're smart is that they got a whole bunch of people to agree with them. So you can't say, oh, well, the side that I disagree with is I got to pause on. You can't just say, well, the side that I disagree with is dumb, therefore all their followers and all their supporters are also stupid. That's not possible. It can't be. There's not 10 million stupid people all supporting something that you disagree with. They're actually pretty smart. So give them their credit. Give them their credit that they're smart. Respect your opponent. You go on a combat sport like a boxing match, not respecting your opponent, you're going to get knocked out. You need to think the same way when you're dealing with people who you disagree with. All right. They are smart people. They just have a strategy that's different than yours. That's okay. So Viga said, I committed on the owner of Telegram getting arrested, commented at France on IG. I wrote he got arrested because he wants to censor and control speech. I got over 200 likes and attacked for it. Well, yeah, that happens. Social media. Obama is a great car salesman who boosted the rainbow community. Well, Obama's a great salesman, period. Car salesman, I mean, I know you're trying to kind of denigrate him, but Obama's a great salesman. He literally won the election twice, built 100. We got to respect that. He won the election twice. All right, so he got half the country to vote for him twice. All right, we can't denigrate his sales skills, because the presidential election is a sales process. In case any of you didn't know, it's just sales. Donald Trump is a natural salesman. Kamala Harris is not a good salesperson, so she has a whole system behind her for what she's doing. That's not a knock on her; it's just the truth. She's not a good salesperson. Donald Trump is a natural salesperson. Obama is a great speaker, and his speeches sold him. So, question is, I lost a friend because better yet, she lost me because I said I like Kanye, and when Kanye was supporting Trump, right? And she says she can't be friends with someone who supports Trump. Yes, that's exactly what I was referring to earlier. And people are going around doing this, and that was crazy. I listened to your podcast the other day on the subject of becoming friends, finding common ground, people you disagree with. Oh, yes, good stuff. Yes, it's similar to what I'm talking about here today. I appreciate that game. How do you keep yourself sane in a world where people don't think and are emotional? It's understanding it. It's just respecting it. So it's one of the principles of Stoicism is accepting people for who they are. And if you haven't read Louis Seneca's book, it's called Letters from a Stoic. Y'all can find that online or Audible, wherever you read or listen to books. Letters from a Stoic is about understanding that people are who they are and everybody is different. The great thing about the world that we're in is everyone is unique and we got our own ways of thinking. So just if you're a super logical individual and you know that most people are not, well, you still got to meet them where they are because you have to live and die amongst people. So you better learn how to work with them, even if you're not like them, that's a skill. That's a skill to have. Gabriel says, John McCain and Obama were different political parties, but they found common ground, agreeing on certain policies and pushing laws. Most politicians agree on damn near everything. They just disagree on how they're going to do it. The disagreement is not, again, there's no politician saying that we want prices to be higher so that you can't afford food, clothing, and shelter. Every politician says, we're going to make sure that you can afford food, clothing, shelter. Democrats say it, the Republicans say it. The difference is how they're going to do it. One says we're going to do this, other one says we're going to do that. And then they say, well, they both call each other liars and they both go laying out their policies and they both go on social media and try to get attention. They all just have these tactics. This is all just tactical stuff that they're doing. But generally, they agree on what they're trying to do. All right, so let me just respond to a couple more comments on IG before I wrap this up. I'm voting for Trump mainly because as an entrepreneur, the economy was way better back then. That's Trump's strongest point. The strongest point for Trump is that the economy was doing great before COVID when he was president. And nobody can refute that. Let's see. The politicians are to blame for the division of the people. I can't agree with that, boy. I wouldn't say the politicians are to blame because the people still do what they want to do. Politicians can't make you do anything. They can't make you think anything that you don't want to think. And you have been influenced by the politician, but you can't blame the politician. Same way that I can't blame social media. I can't blame Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok for the way that people can't focus or the way that people are always just trying to get gotcha moments in the comments on people. I can't blame social media for that because what is social media? All social media is a platform for people to say what they want to say. Instagram is not posting on Instagram. We post on Instagram. Instagram is not in my comments talking shit. Those are people in the comments talking shit. So we can't blame Instagram for that. All they did was create a platform. We're the ones who fill in the gaps with all the stuff. So you can't blame the platform when we're the ones doing it. You can't blame the politician for division amongst people. People decided to divide themselves. A politician can do whatever he wants to do. You don't have to decide to get all excited negatively or positively about the politician. That's a choice. That's human choice. I cannot accept blaming the politicians for that. I can say that they played a role, but I can't blame them. I would have to put that on the people. Let's see. Trump is a natural salesperson. Yes, he is. He is a salesperson. Trump has a book called The Art of the Deal. If any of you who is looking into this election, here's another thing I can tell you. I'll go a little bit here because y'all are giving me good commentary. Any politician who's running for office, most of them have written books. Almost every politician has written a book. So I think if we go back to 2000, was the first election that I was eligible to vote in. W. Bush and who was that? Al Gore. They've written books. The next one was Bush again against Kerry. They both have written. I think Kerry has a book. He probably has a couple books. Then it was Obama. Obama has books. Y'all should read Obama's book. and I need to read a couple of Obama books. His books are pretty long, so I need to read his books. And who was he going up against the first time? That was McCain. Then next time it was Romney. They have books. 2016, Trump has books. Trump has books before he was a politician. You should read Trump's books so you know what kind of person he is. If you want to know who Trump really is, go read his books and his words where he's talking about himself. You want to know who Obama is, read his books and his words where he's talking about himself. Don't just go off the speeches. When someone's giving a speech to the whole country, of course, there's certain things they can say and certain things they can't say. Read their books so you know what they really believe. Because if someone writes a 200-page book, they're going to expose themselves for better or worse. Trump has written a bunch of books. Read his books so you know what he's really about. I say he's a natural salesperson because that's his thing. He loves to sell. He loves to sell and make deals. He loves to negotiate. The reason we didn't have a bunch of geopolitical turmoil during his period is because Trump loves to make deals. That's his thing. His thing is waking up and making deals. He actually says that in his book. Some people like to play sports. Some people like to paint. Some people like to dance. Some people like to teach kids. I like to make deals. Trump has said that out of his own mouth. That's his thing, making deals, doing business. The reason why the economy was doing well when he was president is because that's what he loves to do, make deals. So the reason why he was able to negotiate the peace in Israel back then is because he made a deal. And now it's crazy because he ain't there. So that's part of it. If he doesn't win, I think it's going to get crazier out there. That's just what I think. I don't pay that much attention to that stuff, but Kamala's not a deal maker. She ain't that. That's one thing I can say. So he's a salesperson. That's what he loves to do, is sell. Sugar Rush was good. Good morning. Someone said, you're drawing your conclusion from you, who's a critical thinker. Most people aren't you. That's correct. You're right about that. Yes, I draw all my conclusions from me. That's a good observation. So anyway, what we are talking about, somebody said, is it crazier in Israel or the U.S.? No, I mean Israel. It's going to get crazier over there if Trump does not win. I think if he wins, he's going to negotiate peace and it will be relatively quickly. I think if he loses and Kamala wins, I think it's going to get more crazy in that whole area. I think more countries going to jump in. I think it's going to get worse. I think Trump can and will negotiate peace because that's what he loves to do. That's his favorite thing to do, is negotiate peace. Well, negotiate period, not peace, but negotiate period. That's his thing. Again, it's in his books. I'm not saying this as a spokesperson for him. It's in the book. So again, any of you thinking about who to vote for, read these people's books. I think Kamala has a book. I believe her book is already up. She might have more than one book. Let me look on Amazon. I'm pretty sure she does. By the time someone gets to the point of running for president, folks, they already have books. So y'all need to be reading these so that they can tell you what they're really about. So Kamala Harris has a book called The Truths We Hold, An American Journey. And yeah, I think that's the only book she has. Then there's a bunch of books written about her. Now she got a kid's book called Superheroes Are Everywhere. I didn't know about that one. It's a kid's book. And then there's a bunch of books that are written about her. By the time someone gets to running for president, ladies and gentlemen, there's a bunch of stuff written about them. Y'all got to read this stuff so you know who you're voting for. All right. Y'all not reading these people's books, but you're voting for them. Y'all should know who these people are. Again, if someone writes a book, they are exposing themselves. They're telling you exactly who they are and exactly what they're about. Read Trump's books. He'll tell you exactly who he is. Trump has a chapter. It's really funny. I remember talking about this years ago. Trump has a book called Think Big. It used to be called Think Big and Kick Ass, but then they took the kick ass part out and they just called it Think Big. And Trump has a chapter in that book that's called Always Get Revenge. And it's a really funny chapter. It's hilarious because I know he's dead serious. And in this chapter, all he's doing is explaining how anytime someone does him wrong, he always tries to get revenge on him. And the reason I respect it so much because I know he was telling the truth. That's just who he is as a person. And whether you disagree or agree with it, the fact that he's being honest, nobody can say that Trump is not honest about who he is. He's honest about himself. And it's in his books. Again, he wrote this book and put it out. So again, y'all need to be doing your research on these folks. You're voting for somebody, you better know who they are. Don't listen to their speeches. A speech is a sales pitch. Go listen to who they really are. Is it right there in the book? They're telling you exactly what they're about. Read Obama's books and it'll help you make more sense of what he did when he was president. So any of you voted for Obama because he was black and then he didn't do anything for black people. That's what black people keep saying. We voted for him. He didn't do nothing for black people. He did all this stuff for the other group. I can't say that name because again, TikTok keeps flagging me when I say these words. So I got to be careful what I say. But if you want to know why he did that, go read his book. He tells you, he predicts what he's going to do right there in the book. Most people don't read. I just told you 3 truths about people. Most people don't think, they don't read, and they're lazy. So this is why people don't have this information, even though it's right there available for you. Obama has 2 books. One is called, I think one is called Dreams from My Father. That one, I have both of his books. He might have more than one, more than two rather. So he has A Promised Land. That was the newer one that he wrote. I think he wrote this one after he stopped being president. And then he wrote Dreams from My Father. That one was like before he really became president. And it's funny because the cover of this book was just like the cover of Kamala's book. And then he has The Audacity of Hope. Yeah, I think he wrote that one like right in the middle of being being president. And he has this book with Bruce Springsteen. I don't know if that's just a picture book. It might just be a picture book. So those are his three: The Audacity of Hope, Dreams from My Father, and A Promised Land. Barack Obama tells you exactly who he is and exactly what he's about. So if you were confused by his policies, that's simply because you didn't read the book. You're confused by his policies because you didn't read the book. If you're confused by anything Donald Trump does because you didn't read the book. Reading is fundamental, ladies and gentlemen. It's free to do. The book costs what, $20? All y'all got $20. All y'all got a smartphone, you got $20. Okay. Get the book. Okay. Get the audio book. The audio book's cheaper than the regular book. Listen to the book. Listen to what these people are saying. They're telling you exactly what they're about in plain sight. And most people are confused and surprised when they do stuff. Like, were you paying attention? So Sajid says, Kamala as a prosecutor knows how to mince words and pin the blame. Yes. Yeah. That's one of the skills you got to have as a prosecutor, and basically verbally shutting people down. So that's why I think if they debate, it's going to be very interesting, because Kamala's good at kind of shutting people down with the prosecutor thing. But at the same time, her challenge is she hasn't really articulated what she's about. And every time she's spoken off script, she's looked bad. So I think her campaign is trying to keep her from doing anything that's going to make her look bad, which is a smart idea. But I think the people are eventually going to keep demanding, like, yeah, we need to hear her actually say something. We've heard Trump talk plenty. We haven't really heard her talk unless she was reading from a script. People want to hear her talk without a script. So that's the challenge, and it's a balance that they're trying to manage, because they let her talk too much, she might expose herself in a negative way. And Trump doesn't mind doing that. He likes talking off the cuff. He was on a reality TV show. So again, notice the things I'm saying about these people have nothing to do with politics or policy or any of that stuff. Most people don't care about that stuff as much as they claim to anyway. Political elections, folks, are popularity contests. That's all it is. It's just a popularity contest. Who's more popular? All right, Trump was more popular than Hillary. That's why he won. Barack Obama is a very popular guy. He's a great speaker. That's why he won. John F. Kennedy, popularity contest. It's all popularity. That's all it is. So someone asked, what's the trade-off if Trump wins? The trade-off is I think there's going to be a lot more division amongst people, because people are going to be mad that he won. And they're going to say the same thing that I thought in 2016. How is it possible that half the country voted for this person who's so terrible? And most people are not like me. They're not going to go get the information and find out why what they believe may not actually be true, which is how I start to think differently. Like, there's no way that half the country is terrible. I've met too many people. I've been too many places. That's not possible. So I had to go get more information to find out why I was believing something that I knew was not true based on my life experience. Now, also, most people have not been to so many places like I have. I've been to damn near every state in America. I've been to like 10 or 11 different countries. So I've dealt with a lot of different people. So when I saw half the country vote for someone who I had been conditioned to believe was such a terrible person, I said, this is not possible based on my experience. Most people don't have my experience. They've only lived in their one city, their one town, their whole life, and they only know what they see on the internet. And they are not open to challenging that belief because they have no reference. They have no frame of reference as to why it might not be true. I had a very strong frame of reference as to why that wasn't true. So that's why I went exploring and looking for something different. And that's how it makes sense to me. That's how it made sense to me to go look. So the question is the trade-off. The answer built 100 is I think there will be more division, which is funny, because people say him being president creates division. Is actually the people who don't like that he's president that are creating the division. So they're right, but they're right for the wrong reason. That's what I think would happen. People are going to be really mad if he wins, and they're going to sow and create even more division because he won. And if he doesn't win, and people say, well, if he doesn't win, he's going to try to say that he didn't lose and do what happened at the Capitol all over again, which is a whole other story that I don't even feel like getting into today. So I believe the moment is too big for her. The script only goes so far. Well, that depends. We'll see. We'll see if she gets on stage and does that debate. If they do the debate and she has to speak off the cuff extemporaneously, I think that's going to be bad for Kamala, because she's not a good speaker. She is the opposite of Barack Obama. She's not a good speaker at all. And if she doesn't have a script, and in a debate there's no script, she's going to be in trouble. So I think that they're trying to stop that from happening, or they're trying to set it up, her side. They're trying to set it up so that it's favorable for her to win. But I don't know if they'll be able to do it. So it's like a chess game. Interesting to watch if you're not emotionally engaged in who wins. So I appreciate you. Appreciate you, Sajid. Send me a message, man. Send me a DM. Lionel was good. Okay, let me wrap this up in a minute. Let me see the last couple things on TikTok, then we'll wrap this up, everybody. I appreciate everybody's time. We've been here for an hour and 20 minutes, but y'all have been a good audience, so I kept going. Okay, Booyah, I appreciate you. Thank you. You read Obama's books? All right, that's what's up. Yeah, a lot of people haven't read his books. Y'all should be reading his books. One of God's Sons, appreciate you. Yes, YouTube to TikTok. We also on Rumble. I'm on YouTube right now too. We're on Instagram. We're also on Facebook. So we're on like 6 different platforms at the same time right now. Someone said, bro is drinking that MAGA Kool-Aid. You talking about me? In 2017, I wrote an award essay about Trump, and that is still true. That's what's up. California Living says she did good on the VP debate. You're just a hater. No, I don't think she did good on the VP debate against what VP debate you talking? You talking about the last election cycle? Maybe, but let's see what she does this time. At the same time, California Living, she also went and debated when she was trying to run for president. The only reason she became VP because she was trying to beat Biden and she couldn't beat him. She had to stop her own campaign after she kind of got dragged by Tulsi Gabbard at the primary when all of them were still in it. So that happened as well. So I don't know about doing good. And the VP debate doesn't matter nearly as much as the presidential one. So this is a different approach, because as you can see, if you want to speak about Kamala, she is distancing herself from Biden's policies, even though she was the number 2 in charge in that time. So if we're going to say and again, at the same time, rather, the VP debate doesn't really matter to much. Nobody cares what the VP say. We care what the president says, because that's the person everybody's looking at. That's the figurehead. That's pretty much how it goes. Someone said it's weird how Farrakhan and Trump got slandered for the truth, emotional-based country. Well, it depends on what truth you believe in. Not everybody believes in the same truth. That's the issue. All right, so what you're calling the truth and what Farrakhan calls the truth and what Trump calls the truth, there's a bunch of people who say that ain't the truth. So that's just the conflict of life. Not everybody agrees on the same truth. So read my award-winning book. Okay, we will. All right, everybody, let me wrap this up. It's been damn near an hour and a half. I appreciate everybody's time and attention here. I do these lives every weekday morning. Usually we start about 8. Today I started about 8:30, but somewhere in the 8 o'clock hour, we will start these. Usually between 8 and 8:30, we start these lives. I talk about different things. Sometimes it's mindset, sometimes it's business, sometimes it's life stuff like we did here today. And if you want to work with me further, go any further with me, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. That's the link, and it should be in my bio in whatever platform you're watching me, or in the comment, or it should be in my bio wherever you're at, or you can just send me a DM, or just do one of those things. Send me a DM or go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. That's where you can work with me directly. That's where we do all our coaching, consulting, our courses, our programs, everything like that. Workonyourgameuniversity.com. I'll see all y'all tomorrow. Have a great day. We out of here.